Hello comrades, it's Captain Communist here, and today I'm going to explain to you all why I love Cuba. Now, if you didn't know, recently this year, Cuba was hit by Hurricane Irma. So I pretty much made this video to show my solidarity to the Cuban people in their struggles against both the hurricane and, of course, something that's been haunting them for a very long time, US imperialism. Cuba is like a beacon of social progress amid oceans of hunger and illiteracy. In Cuba, nobody goes hungry. They have health and education systems to match those of the richest capitalist countries. You can't have failed to notice that Cuba provides free education from primary to university, not only to its own people, but has trained thousands and thousands of people from abroad at no cost, including 160 odd physicians from the United States. Doesn't that shame the governments of the United States and Britain, who have forced their students to pile up hundreds of millions of pounds and dollars worth of debt? The governments in the United States and Britain are still arguing should the students be asked to pay fees. I say, learn from Cuba. If this country, far less prosperous than both Britain and the United States, can still provide free education for their students up to university level and beyond, surely it must be possible for us to be able to do it here in Britain. The only thing that prevents us from doing so is private property. That is what the Cubans do not have, and that is why they are able to provide these things. Before the revolution, the people of Cuba were not able to see a doctor, because if somebody was seriously ill, it would have taken usually about 20 people to carry that person over 2 days to get to a hospital. First, because the hospitals were very far away from the rural areas of the country, and secondly, you couldn't simply go straight to the hospital. You would have to go across mountains, and often by the time you got to the hospital, that person who was seriously ill would have been dead by then. Today, however, the Cuban people have access to free healthcare with full-time doctors. Now, the Cuban people are no more than 20 minutes away from a hospital. The US healthcare system is entirely privately owned. It's the most expensive and inefficient in the world, costing $6,719 per person per year, while leaving more than 50 million people uninsured and many millions more underinsured. The socialist alternative can be seen today in countries like Cuba, where publicly owned universal healthcare is delivered for just $362 per person per year and achieves population health statistics that surpass those of developed countries. The difference: at no point in the Cuban system is there anybody who is driving up costs by making a profit. Havana, which is Cuba's capital city, is probably one of the cleanest cities you can find. And yes, there may be paint coming off the walls and the buildings in Cuba, but you don't see children begging on the streets anymore, or prostitutes wandering the streets at night. Because before socialism, prostitution was Cuba's main industry. Cuban socialism mobilizes all of the resources of society to minimize the human casualties of the very same storms that kill hundreds and thousands when they happen elsewhere in other countries. And those, of course, are hundreds and thousands invariably of the poorest people in those capitalist countries. And where Western powers export weapons to the profit, of course, of the arms corporations, Cuba exports only thousands of volunteer doctors, usually free of charge. My criteria is what happens to those people who couldn't read and write. What happens to those babies who couldn't eat? And right there, that is why I support revolution. The revolution that feeds the children gets my support. The US imperialists who try to stop that kind of process, who try to keep the Cuban people in poverty, illiteracy and hunger, that gets my undiluted opposition. Because capitalism's answer always is, this man is too long for the bed, chop off his legs. Socialism's answer is this man is too long for the bed, let's get a longer bed.